iPad is an iOS-based line of tablet computers designed and marketed by Apple Inc. The first iPad was released on April 3, 2010. The most recent iPad models are the iPad Air 2, released on October 22, 2014, the iPad Mini 4, released on September 9, 2015, and the iPad Pro, released on November 11, 2015. The user interface is built around the device's multi-touch screen, including a virtual keyboard. The iPad includes built-in Wi-Fi and cellular connectivity on select models. As of January 2015, there have been over 250 million iPads sold. An iPad can shoot video, take photos, play music, and perform internet functions such as web browsing and emailing. Other functions, games, reference, GPS navigation, social networking, etc., can be enabled by downloading and installing apps. As of October 2013, the App Store has more than 475,000 native apps by Apple and third parties. There have been 6 versions of the iPad. The first generation established design precedents, such as the 9.7-inch screen size and button placement, that have persisted through all models. The second generation iPad introduced a whole new design which also added a dual-core Apple A5 processor and VGA front-facing and 720p rear-facing cameras designed for FaceTime video calling, and dramatically reduced the thickness of the device. The third generation added a Retina display, the new Apple A5X processor with a quad-core graphics processor, a 5-megapixel camera, HD 1080p video recording, voice dictation, and 4G. The fourth generation added the Apple A6X processor and replaces the 30-pin connector with an all-digital Lightning connector. The iPad Air added the Apple A7 processor and the Apple M7 Motion coprocessor, and reduced the thickness for the first time since the iPad 2. The iPad Air 2 added the Apple A8X processor, the Apple M8 Motion coprocessor, an 8-megapixel camera, and the Touch ID fingerprint sensor, and further reduced the thickness. There have been 4 versions of the iPad Mini. The first generation features a reduced screen size of 7.9 inches and features similar internal specifications as the iPad 2, except it uses the Lightning connector. The iPad Mini 2 features the Retina display, the Apple A7 processor and the Apple M7 Motion coprocessor, closely matching the internal specifications of the iPad Air. The iPad Mini 3 features the Touch ID fingerprint sensor. The iPad Mini 4 features the Apple A8 and the Apple M8 Motion coprocessor. In the last quarter of 2013, there were 26 million iPads sold, an Apple record, compared to 22.9 million in the last quarter of 2012 and 21.42 million in the last quarter of 2014. History. Apple co-founder Steve Jobs said in a 1983 speech that the company's strategy is really simple, and we really want to do it with a radio link in it so you don't have to hook up to anything and you're in communication with all of these larger databases and other computers. Apple's first tablet computer was the Newton MessagePad 100, introduced in 1993, powered by an ARM6 processor core developed by ARM, a 1990 spin-out of Acorn Computers in which Apple invested. Apple also developed a prototype PowerBook Duo-based tablet, the Penlight, but decided not to sell it in order to avoid hurting MessagePad sales. Apple released several more Newton-based PDAs. The final one, the MessagePad 2100, was discontinued in 1998. Apple re-entered the mobile computing market in 2007 with the iPhone, smaller than the iPad, but featuring a camera and mobile phone. It pioneered the multi-touch finger-sensitive touchscreen interface of Apple's iOS mobile operating system. By late 2009, the iPad's release had been rumored for several years. Such speculation mostly talked about Apple's tablet. Specific names included a tablet and iLet. The iPad was announced on January 27, 2010, by Steve Jobs at an Apple press conference at the Yerba Buena Center for the Arts in San Francisco. Jobs later said that Apple had begun developing the iPad before the iPhone. Jonathan Ive in 1991 had created an industrial design for a stylus-based tablet, the Macintosh Folio, as his first project for Apple. By 2004, his studio at the company was participating in the development of a large tablet prototype, which he later described as very crude, involving projectors. Ive stated that after seeking to produce the tablet first, he came to agree with Jobs that the phone was more important, as the tablet's innovations would work as well in it. The iPad's internal code name was K48, which was revealed in the court case surrounding leaking of iPad information before launch. Apple began taking pre-orders for the first-generation iPad on March 12, 2010. The only major change to the device between its announcement and being available to pre-order was the change of the behavior of the side switch to perform either sound muting or screen rotation locking. The Wi-Fi version of the iPad went on sale in the United States on April 3, 2010. The Wi-Fi plus 3G version was released on April 30. 3G service in the United States is provided by AT&T and was initially sold with two prepaid contract-free data plan options, one for unlimited data and the other for 250 megabytes per month at half the price. On June 2, 2010, AT&T announced that effective June 7, the unlimited plan would be replaced for new customers with a 2 GB plan at slightly lower cost. Existing customers would have the option to keep the unlimited plan. The plans are activated on the iPad itself and can be cancelled at any time. Initially, the iPad was only available to order at the Apple Store, but has since become available for purchase through retailers including Amazon, Walmart, and network operators. The iPad was launched in countries including Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Japan and the United Kingdom on May 28. Online pre-orders in those countries began on May 10. Apple released the iPad in Hong Kong, Ireland, Mexico, New Zealand and Singapore on July 23, 2010. Israel briefly prohibited importation of the iPad because of concerns that its Wi-Fi might interfere with other devices. On September 17, 2010, the iPad was officially launched in China. 300,000 iPads were sold on their first day of availability. By May 3, 2010, Apple had sold 1 million iPads. This was in half the time it took Apple to sell the same number of first-generation iPhones. After passing the 1 million mark, they continued selling rapidly, reaching 3 million sales after 80 days. During the October 18, 2010, financial conference call, Steve Jobs announced that Apple had sold more iPads than Macs for the fiscal quarter. In total, Apple sold more than 15 million first-generation iPads prior to the launch of the iPad 2, selling more than all other tablet PCs combined since the iPad's release, and reaching 75% of tablet PC sales at the end of 2010. Jobs unveiled the iPad 2 at a March 2, 2011, press conference. About 33% thinner than its predecessor and 15% lighter, the iPad 2 has a better processor, a dual-core Apple A5 that Apple says is twice as fast as its predecessor for CPU operations and up to 9 times as fast for GPU operations. The iPad 2 includes front and back cameras that support the FaceTime video phone application, as well as a 3-axis gyroscope. It retained the original's 10-hour battery life and had a similar pricing scheme. The successor to the iPad 2 was unveiled on March 7, 2012, by Apple CEO Tim Cook at the Yerba Buena Center for the Arts. The new iPad contained a new dual-core A5X processor with quad-core graphics, and a Retina display with a resolution of 2048 by 1536 pixels, more than 50% more pixels than a standard 1920 by 1080 high-definition TV screen. A brief controversy erupted when it was revealed that the LTE advertised did not work in some countries. On October 23, 2012, Apple announced the fourth-generation iPad, which began shipping on November 2, 2012. The new hardware includes an A6X processor, HD FaceTime camera, improved LTE compatibility, and the all-digital Lightning connector. It is available in the same storage increments and pricing structure as the third generation. Following the announcement of the fourth-generation iPad, the previous generation was discontinued. Alongside the launch of the fourth-generation hardware, Apple announced the iPad mini. With a screen measuring 7.9 inches, it is aimed at the emerging sector of smaller tablets such as the Kindle Fire and Nexus 7. The hardware of the new iPad mini is similar to the iPad 2, with a 1024 by 768 pixel resolution screen and a dual-core A5 processor, but is 53% lighter and 7.2 mm thick. It was released on November 2, 2012, in 16 GB, 32 GB, and 64 GB capacities and Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi plus cellular versions. On October 22, 2013, Apple introduced the fifth generation of iPad, called the iPad Air, and the second generation of iPad mini, called iPad mini 2, that comes with a Retina display. The iPad Air went on sale on November 1, 2013, starting at $499, while the iPad mini 2 was released on November 12, 2013, starting at $399. In October 2014, Apple released the iPad Air 2 and the iPad mini 3. The iPad Air 2 is the first iOS device to feature a triple-core CPU and 2 GB of RAM. As well as being thinner and faster than its predecessor, the iPad Air, it features Touch ID and is available with a gold color option. The iPad mini 3 is similar than the iPad mini 2 in design and hardware, but also includes Touch ID and available in gold color. In September 2015, the iPad Pro was announced, which included a 12.9-inch screen. Hardware. Screen and input. The iPad's touchscreen display is a 1024 by 768 pixel, 7.75 times 5.82 in liquid crystal display, with fingerprint and scratch-resistant glass. Steve Jobs said a 7-inch screen would be too small to express the software, and that 10 inches was the minimum for a tablet screen. Like the iPhone, the iPad is designed to be controlled by bare fingers. Normal, non-conductive gloves and styli do not work, although there are special gloves and capacitive styli designed for this use. The display responds to other senses. An ambient light sensor to adjust screen brightness and a 3-axis accelerometer to sense iPad orientation and switch between portrait and landscape modes. Unlike the iPhone and iPod Touch has built-in applications, which work in 3 orientations. The iPad's built-in applications support screen rotation in all 4 orientations, including upside down. Consequently, the device has no intrinsic, native orientation, only the relative position of the home button changes. There are 4 physical switches on the iPad, including a home button near the display that returns the user to the main menu, and 3 plastic physical switches on the sides, wake, sleep and volume up, down, plus a software-controlled switch whose function has changed with software updates. Originally the switch locked the screen to its current orientation, but the iOS 4.2 changed it to a mute switch, with rotation lock now available in an on-screen menu. In the iOS 4.3 update, released with the iPad 2, A setting was added to allow the user to specify whether the side switch was used for rotation lock or mute. The first generation iPad had no camera. The iPad 2 has a front VGA camera and a rear-facing 720p camera, both capable of still images and 30 fps video. The rear-facing camera has a 5x digital zoom for still images only. Both shoot photo and video in a 4:3 full-screen aspect ratio, unlike the iPhone 4, which shoots in a 16:9 widescreen aspect ratio. Unlike the iPhone, the iPad does not support tap-to-focus but does allow a tap-to-set auto-exposure. The cameras allow FaceTime video messaging with iPhone 4, 4th generation iPod Touch, and Snow Leopard, Lion, and Mountain Lion Max. Audio and output. The iPad has two internal speakers reproducing left and right channel audio located on the bottom right of the unit. In the original iPad, the speakers push sound through two small sealed channels leading to the three audio ports carved into the device, while the iPad 2 has its speakers behind a single grille. A volume switch is on the right side of the unit. A 3.5mm TRRS connector audio out jack on the top left corner of the device provides stereo sound for headphones with or without microphones and/or volume controls. The iPad also contains a microphone that can be used for voice recording. The built-in Bluetooth 2.1 Plus EDR interface allows wireless headphones and keyboards to be used with the iPad. However, iOS does not currently support file transfer via Bluetooth. iPad also features 1024x768 VGA video output for limited applications, screen capture, connecting an external display or television through an accessory adapter. Battery. The iPad uses an internal rechargeable lithium-ion polymer battery. The batteries are made in Taiwan by Simplo Technology and Dynapack International Technology. The iPad is designed to be charged with a high current of 2 amperes using the included 10W USB power adapter and USB cord with a USB connector at one end and a 30-pin dock connector at the other end. While it can be charged by a standard USB port from a computer, these are limited to 500 mAh. As a result, if the iPad is running while powered by a normal USB computer port, it may charge very slowly, or not at all. High-power USB ports found in newer Apple computers and accessories provide full charging capabilities. Like any rechargeable battery technology, the iPad's battery loses capacity over time, but is not designed to be user-replaceable. In a program similar to the battery replacement program for the iPod and the original iPhone, Apple will replace an iPad that does not hold an electrical charge with a refurbished iPad for a fee of $99 plus $6.95 shipping. As a different unit is supplied, user data is not preserved. The refurbished unit will have a new case. The warranty on the refurbished unit may vary between jurisdictions. Independent companies also provide a battery replacement service, returning the original unit with new battery but original case. Alternatively, it is possible for a technically competent user to buy and install a new battery. The task does not require soldering, but is technically challenging. Storage. The iPad was released with 3 capacity options for storage: 16, 32, or 64 GB of internal flash memory. On January 29, 2013, Apple announced a 128 GB model of the 4th generation iPad, which was released on February 5. All data is stored on the internal flash memory, with no option to expand storage. Apple sells a camera connection kit with an SD card reader, but it can only be used to transfer photos and videos. Cellular connectivity. iPad models come in 2 basic variants: Wi-Fi only and Wi-Fi with cellular support. The cellular variants, however, do not support circuit-switched voice calls and texts, only data connectivity. The side of the Wi-Fi plus 3G iPad had a micro SIM slot. The 3G iPad can be used with any compatible GSM carrier, unlike the iPhone, which is usually sold locked to specific carriers. On the first generations of the iPad in the US, data network access via T-Mobile's network was limited to slower edge cellular speeds because T-Mobile's 3G network at the time used different frequencies. The second-generation iPad introduced a third tier of models with CDMA support for Verizon Wireless in the United States, available separately from the AT&T-capable version. The iPad up to the fourth generation uses a microSIM, while the first-generation iPad mini uses a nano SIM as introduced with the iPhone 5. The iPad mini is available with two different frequency bands worldwide. Both devices support the same quad-band GSM and quad-band UMTS frequencies, but one variant also supports LTE bands 4 and 17, while the other adds support for LTE bands 1, 3, 5, 13, 25 and CDMA-FDU Rev. A and Rev. B. The fifth-generation iPad and second-generation iPad mini introduced support for many additional LTE bands worldwide. The iPad Air and Mini with Retina display cellular models come in two variants each, all of which support nano SIMs, quad-band GSM, pentaband UMTS, and dual-band CDMA-FDU Rev. A and B. Additionally, one variant of each iPad also supports LTE bands 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 13, 17, 18, 19, 20, 25 and 26, while the other variant supports LTE bands 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 18, 19, 20 and TD-LTE bands 38, 39 and 40. Apple's ability to handle many different bands in one device allowed it to offer, for the first time, a single iPad variant which supports all the cellular bands and technologies deployed by all the major North American wireless providers at the time of the device's introduction. Moreover, with T-Mobile USA selling the iPad Air and Mini with Retina display, these models became the first iPads that were made available for purchase directly from all four nationwide U.S. wireless carriers. Accessories. Apple offers several iPad accessories, most of which are adapters for the proprietary 30-pin dock connector. The iPad's only port, besides the headphone jack, a dock, holds the iPad upright at an angle, and has a dock connector and audio line out port. Each generation of iPad requires a corresponding dock. A dock that included a physical keyboard was only supported for the original iPad, but all generations are compatible with Bluetooth keyboards that also work with Macs and PCs. The iPad can be charged by a standalone power adapter also used for iPods and iPhones, and a 10W charger is included with the iPad. Apple sells a camera connection kit that consists of two separate adapters for the dock connector, one to USB Type-A, the other an SD card reader. Adapter can be used to transfer photos and videos and to plug USB audio card or MIDI keyboard. A third party sells an adapter that includes USB, SD, and micro SD on a single unit. An adapter to VGA connectors allows the iPad to work with external monitors and projectors. Another adapter mirrors the screen onto HDMI-compatible devices in 1080p and works with all apps and rotations. Unlike other adapters, it allows the iPad to charge through another dock connector. While the HDMI adapter was released with and advertised for the second-generation iPad, it also works with the first-generation iPad, the iPhone 4, and the fourth-generation iPod Touch. Smart covers are screen protectors that magnetically attach and align to the face of the iPad 2, 3, or 4. The cover has three folds which allow it to convert into a stand, which is also held together by magnets. While original iPad owners could purchase a black case that included a similarly folding cover, the smart cover is meant to be more minimal, easily detachable, and protects only the screen. Smart covers have a microfiber bottom that cleans the front of the iPad, which wakes up when the cover is removed. There are 5 different colors of both polyurethane and leather, with leather being more expensive. Smart covers are not compatible with the original iPad. In June 2012, Apple started selling the Smart Case, a case with the combined function of a smart cover and a back protection case which is compatible with the iPad 2 and iPad 3rd and 4th generation devices.